Well, first of all, thank you so much for coming out here on this fine Saturday afternoon. And my name is Ameer, and I'm one of the founders of AgroSpheres. Can you guys hear me okay in the back? So this past year, AgroSpheres won several accolades. To name a few noteworthy ones, we won the Virginia Velocity Tour, National Collegiate Inventors Competition, and of course, the UVA Entrepreneurship Cup. And by doing so, we were able to garner a lot of capital that helped accelerate the financial development of AgroSpheres. In total, we garnered about, is the presentation of that? Yeah. Oh, perfect. We garnered about $170,000 in non-dilutive capital, and that really helped us a lot. And like Alex mentioned before, just this month, we closed our series raise of about $750,000, and we're really excited for whatever's out there in the future for us. Now, I'm sure you're wondering why are all these people giving us so much money, to a group of college kids. And essentially at AgroSpheres, we invented a technology that enables the applications of synthetic biology without the genetically engineered DNA. And we use this technology to make our first product, which was a spray that breaks down pesticides into their non-toxic byproducts. And we developed this solution in collaboration with the local Virginia vineyards. The motivation to build this product was primarily due to the social impact it would have in developing countries. Since Payam and I were both from developing countries, we had a lot of personal attachment to this product because we were aware of the health repercussions associated with pesticide exposure. I was born in a small village in Pakistan, actually to a family of farmers, and my parents worked very hard to bring me to the city one day, and then eventually to the US so that I could get a good education. So I came to the US with aspirations of going to med school, and like any reasonable human being does, I started thinking of ways of how I can boost my resume and what can I do to make sure that I get into med school. And along the way, I met Payam. This guy was thinking the same thing. I was like, what we're gonna do? We're gonna start our own research project. That way they'll take us in for sure. So, we came up with a crazy research proposal, and we started knocking on research labs and said, hey, we want to do this research project. Can we do this in your lab? And to our surprise, most people said no, until we met Dr. Mark Kessler. And Mark Kessler agreed to letting us into his lab, and that's how the journey began. So essentially, in the beginning, the motivation behind AgroSpheres was not compelling at all. We were just using it as a means to get to someplace that was unrelated to AgroSpheres. But somewhere along the way, we felt very compelled to follow through with AgroSpheres. At some point, I made a decision to dedicate myself fully to AgroSpheres, and when I made that decision, I've never had to think twice, never looked back. I've never been so sure about anything else in my entire life. And the reason behind that a big reason was the team. I love the people I work with. It was my dream job. I was working with my best friends. And the other thing was I was very passionate about what I was doing. I was working harder than I ever had, but I didn't feel like it because I loved the job so much. So we were getting a lot of successes. We were working hard, a lot of success in these competitions. We were winning, we were getting some money, we were feeling good. It was getting to our head a little bit. We're like, man, when we go out to raise these seed round, these investors are going to be lucky that they're going to invest in AgroSpheres. But when we went out there, to our surprise, there's a lot of startups out there. And a lot of them are trying to change the world. So this is when Reese Blackwell joined our team, our Darden graduate who did investment banking in New York. And this guy is extremely talented. He's our CEO. And we went out and we started trying to raise capital. And honestly, we were struggling. In part, the image that we had built for ourselves, that this is the student team that just goes out and wins competitions, in this arena, it wasn't really working to our favor. Because we were being treated as a team that just wins competitions. I mean, these guys are at competitions all the time. When do they actually do the work? So we were struggling until this one day when I was hanging out with my good friend Uraz, who's Turkish, and he says, listen, Mir, I need to talk to you about something very important. I was like, oh man, here we go again. Another one of these crazy science theories that I'll have to entertain now. And to my surprise, he says, I've been talking to my father about AgroSpheres for a while now, and he did some due diligence and he seems very interested in investing. I'm like, okay, he's my friend, I believe him. And I go into work the next day, I was like, hey Reese, I found us a group of Turkish investors. And the reasonable human being that he is, he was dismissive, he laughed about it. Took me a couple of days to convince him that no, this is serious. And you know, long story short, a while later, we found ourselves in Istanbul, Turkey. Now, I have a picture to prove this. That is Reese right there. I wish he was here right now. And we found ourselves on the other side of the table of this enzyme company, which, mind you, was a perfect fit for a biotech company such as ourselves. And they're very interested in investing. Meanwhile, I'm very stressed because our funds are running low and the end of our runway is near. And now we have six guys that we need to pay for. And long story short, we went to Turkey and we found our lead investor, and from then on, it was easy for the rest of the round. And I learned a very important lesson. To achieve this huge milestone in AgroSpheres' lifetime, we had to step outside our comfort zone, literally. And this taught me that, you know, to do something important in your life, you may not have to go to Turkey, but you definitely have to step outside your comfort zone. And the second thing I realized was when I was in Turkey, what I was most worried about was the team. I mean, these guys placed their trust in me and Reese to raise this round, and they were here, you know, with their heads down working, not even worried about if the money is going to come in. To them, it was just a question of, oh, it's going to come in, they're going to get their job done. And to work in this environment where everyone, the belief that everyone has in themselves and in the people around them is just amazing. And that's partly why we've been successful at what we do, and the research has been so great. And these are some of my favorite pictures of the team. That Sep right there, he used to work in a great research lab. He was offered a PhD position in that lab to do research with him. He said no because he wanted to work at AgroSpheres. This is Pime, one of the co-founders, of course. Great picture of him. He got accepted into an MD PhD program, and he said no. This is Joey Frank. When I first talked to Joey, we used to work in the same lab together, and he was known as the staining master. I talked to Joey, I was like, listen Joey, you have a really good skill set, we could use this at AgroSpheres. I pitch him AgroSpheres, and the first thing he says is, you know, we could make a lot of money from this. And this is Zach Davis, our lead biochemist, he's amazing. And the note I want to end on is this basically helped us understand how important it is to surround yourself with the right people, how important it is to build this community around us. And it was only recently that I realized this. I was just fortunate that I was blessed with these people around me. But people like Alex and Liz recognized this much earlier. And they built this entrepreneurial community at UVA from the ground up. And it helped us tremendously. And at this point, I would like to define entrepreneurship. One of our mentors gave us this definition that entrepreneurship is the manifestation of our thoughts and aspirations in the real world. The reason I say this is because when I first was introduced to the word, I didn't really know what it meant. It doesn't necessarily mean starting a company. It could be as simple as aspiring to do well in your classes. So I would encourage everyone to make use of this community that Liz and Alex have built. It helped us out tremendously. I would not be where I am today without this community. And since it helped us out so much, we would love to help, you know, however way we can. So my contact information is on the screen. Feel free to reach out, and thank you so much for listening.